Hi, this is the Painted Bride Quarterly Slush Pile. Sometimes we do talk about books, but mostly what we do, our objective is to talk about submissions to our slush pile that we feel we'd like to discuss on air. And we ask the authors for secondary permission, and then we do exactly that. So essentially, we're having an editorial board meeting as our episode. And the we and the us is not going to get broken down for you. And I'm going to start with me because that's how I am. This is Kathleen Volkmiller, and I'm an essayist and director of the graduate program in publishing here at Drexel, and co-editor of Painted Bride Quarterly with so many amazing, wonderful people, including this guy right over here on my left, Tim Fitz.
Hello, my name is Tim Fitz, and I'm the author of 2 short story collections, Go Home and Cry for Yourselves and Hypothermia. And also, I don't want to forget to mention that I have a story single available on Amazon called Sand on Sand Yellow, which is not in either of the collections, but is a standalone piece.
Neato.
And next to me is John Wall Barger.
My name is John Wall Barger, and I'm a poet. I have 3 books of poems out, and poems coming out in Antioch, American Poetry Review, and Poetry Ireland Review, and a new book next spring. And
Excellent.
He just told us that right now.
Yay! I'm really happy to be here.
Exclusive. That's exciting. And we have...
I am Ali Ziabash, Kathleen Volkmiller's co-op currently here at Drexel. I'm a third-year English student, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're so happy to have him. And today we only have one remote fellow, and it's Jason up in New York.
Hi, it's Jason. I am in my office in lovely Tribeca at the Borough of Manhattan Community College, where our union has just been dealt a huge blow by the Supreme Court. And
I saw that on my way in.
Listening to this podcast when we release it, you'll know exactly what day we recorded it.
Yeah, that's okay, though. That's okay. Yeah, I saw that just like a news alert on my phone and didn't get a chance to investigate anything. I'm very sorry, Jason. I don't have a union at all, though, so try that. In that sort of game. How much are your insurance premiums? So guys, you know, I always like to say what's happening actually, and our addition is John Wall Barger. That's our new for today. So he's our podcast virgin, and we're gonna see how he flies with that. And speaking of virgins, guess what? I am the only chick today. You should have seen what these boys were doing earlier. They were all playing with the devices and, you know, being such boys. Marion is in the air, probably. She may have landed by now. I'm not sure. She's on her way to Italy. She might be in Florence, for all we know. She might be sleeping. I don't know. But yeah, that's why she's not here, and that's why I'm here. But I'm ready to go. So today we have 1 poem by one poet and 2 poems by another poet, and we're going to start with the one. And I think, I don't know, who wants to read this? Jason?
Okay, the Karen Neuberg, same house.
Yes, thank you.
Karen Neuberg, same house. When I think of it as my father's house, nostalgia pours over me. Mantle of loose stripe and ragweed. I remember lounging in our small yard as we talked about the shapes we saw in clouds and how his hand reached to me to help me onto the roof as we tarred around the chimney. When I think of it as my mother's house, I can be alone in a room with orange things, curtains, a rug, painting on the wall. When my mother enters, there is a glow over everything. She brings a tray of store-bought cookies. We dunk them into milk. When I think of my mother and father in their house, there is both silence and chatter, laughter, and the restlessness of myself, caught in the static that seemed the sameness of each day. They allowed me my rudeness and timid rage. They allowed me to leave, fussing enough to let me know I could return. Little did I know how many ways I would, years after they were gone.
Thank you, Jason. Always so beautiful in your readings. So I think she has some nerve to talk about cookies and milk.
What?
Well,
Did you get a little dig in the store-bought cookies?
yeah, I do love that at least the cookies are store-bought, right? And I'm so glad that the garish orange of the 70s is long gone. May it never come back. But I kind of had that same thing when she says, I remember the house. You know, we had like flower power wallpaper in the dining room that had a lot of orange in it.
Well, I mean, I think like my favorite line is really when my mother enters, there is a glow over everything.
Yeah.
And that way, which in memory, light is so weird, right? Like, I don't know. Do you have this where like your memories are oddly lit?
Sure.
Yeah. They're like magenta. They're like old photographs.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to like about this poem. I really, I love in the last stanza the restlessness of myself caught in the static that seemed the sameness of each day. They allowed me my rudeness and timid rage. Mm-hmm. It seems very specific, and I feel it. But that same line about the glow kind of put me off a little bit. When my mother enters, there is a glow over everything. It seemed like a reveal that we're in a memory, like it's not an enactment in the present, but it's like this description of what happens in the mind. But it seemed like the first thing that the brain lands on, like, oh, there was a glow over everything. But I don't know. I find it hard to describe, but something was missing there.
Interesting. Well, because the whole thing obviously is nostalgia, right? Which I wanted to talk about that too. Like, does the fact that she calls it and says, you know, nostalgia pours over me, and then does give us descriptions that are you know, a bit used, you know, the cloud shapes and the cookies and milk, because she names it and owns it. I mean, I certainly remember going to bed at night waiting for Santa Claus, and I remember all the tropes too, don't we? I mean, that's why they become tropes, because we do have those sorts of memories, and we share that. Are we going to, you know, criticize her or praise her for using these memories that are easily found?
I sort of feel similar to John. I mean, I like the idea of it, but to me, it's a little bit like 2% milk. Like it's just doesn't have the fat in it that I need to really get off. I love, I mean, certain part like I love the word loose strife. I didn't realize how much I love this word until I saw it in the second line, and I love the curtains. I also like that the cookies are store bought, and the timid rage is great, but it's just kind of gets me right up to that edge. And I'm kind of like, my mouth is sort of watering for some final, or some element that completes the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then that brings us to the very end. And like, Kathy, I agree that this poem kind of tells us what it is right at the beginning. It's going to be about nostalgia, and then there's this hue of orange, and so it's kind of happening in the mind. We know that. And then there's this moment of timid rage, and I agree with Tim that there's this expectation then of something a little deeper. But then there's this last line, little did I know how many ways I would years after they were gone. Like, and that is to return to these memories over and over again. But then all it is a recollection. It's just, I remember them. I go back. And I guess on the one hand, we could say this poem knows what it is, and there are some satisfying images there. But on the other hand, the timid rage also makes me long for something a little bit more, like a revelation at the end that kind of doesn't exactly occur.
Mm-hmm.
The final line is so reminiscent of those winter Sundays, right? The way that Robert Hayden kind of like flips it back and then says like, okay, so while all of that was happening, I didn't know that I would relate to it differently as an adult.
Right.
And like, it in some ways, like, I really love this line about returning, but in the other way, because like what Kathy's saying, what has been described as so familiar, that the return to it has already happened, right? Because we're in such familiar territory that to be told that we go back to it is like, well, we just did. It didn't quite zing for me. Mm-hmm. Like it didn't sort of like reverberate back across the poem in the way that I sort of felt it getting close to.
Right.
Well, and the language throughout is very disarming. Like it invites the reader strongly into the poem. It's colloquial. When I think of my mother and father in their house. So we're in it. But then I feel like they allowed me my rudeness and timid rage seems to be deepening a little. And then I think for this to be a great poem, we need to be hit between the eyes at the end. And I agree that it's just a kind of repetition of what we already know at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every family background has something there that other people would find shocking. And it's different for every family. Some are really shocking. Some aren't. They're just weird. And there's some element in there that needs to come out. Yeah. Just some... whatever that thing is.
Right.
I feel like she probably knows what it is and is trying to get as close as possible without saying it because it's a weird thing that because everyone has that weird thing. You don't want to get to it. And that's one of the challenges. I don't know about poets, but as a fiction writer, how to get to the weird stuff through an angle where everyone's not going to hate you.
And it's also a matter of embarrassment.
Oh, embarrassment. Absolutely.
Ali, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I like the last paragraph of the poem, much like everybody else. The language here, laughter, and the restlessness of myself caught in the static that seemed the sameness each day. I like that line, but I agree that the last line of the poem kind of takes it away from a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of describing what she just did, and now that's what I just did. Yeah.
I thought it was going to happen though, because I thought I'm thinking it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. Then I got the timid rage and I thought, here it comes.
Yeah.
And then it didn't.
Fizzed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I was want to know, like, I mean, I often feel this kind of disavowal of the younger self doesn't quite work for me, right? Like I mean, she's so critical of her own rudeness and her own timid rage. And I'm kind of like, well, what were you like, right? Like kind of lean into that, right? What were you mad about?
Well, exactly. This is like, almost an example of telling us that, like, why not give us an example?
Yeah. I wanted to get in like that sort of felt like where the specificity was. And she's already kind of disowned it as something that was sort of outgrowable.
I used to, before many tragedies befell me, I used to think that my desire to be a writer was silly because I had an idyllic childhood, pretty much, right? But there is always the weird too, and this is just the gloss without ever the thing, the meat. I like the way you described it, the 2% milk. Not that I don't think I've ever drank whole milk in my life. Maybe as a child I must have, yeah. It's thick for me. I don't like it. I don't actually like milk.
I like raw milk.
You like what kind of milk?
Raw milk. Chilled. I mean, I'm like, I drink it warm. I don't care. I used to, when I first moved to Korea, I would get the milk out of the carton and it would have like the clumpy fat at the top. And I couldn't get that down for a while, but it was a matter of time.
No, this is
to crave it.
This is the raw stuff. There's no orange gloss over there. This is the raw material.
Oh boy, guys, I think we might be ready to vote. What do you think?
Sure.
Okay, shall we? 1, 2, 3, vote. And it's not going to happen for this poem. Karen Neuberg, thank you so much for allowing us to discuss your work. Keep sending, and thank you. All right. Sadie Shore Park's Lunacy. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to want John to read one of these. So you pick which one of those you'd like to read. And I'll read the other. Which one do you want?
Can I read Good Sleep?
Sure. So that means I'm reading Lunacy? Are you trying to imply something? What?
The weirdness is coming out. I'm covering it.
You know, I am the middle child of 5 children. Does that explain everything? Okay. All right. This is Lunacy by Sadie Shore Parks. There are pen marks across the sky, black from a laundry accident. I'm in my backyard hanging clothes on a line. No, I'm online, imagining hanging laundry. I can see a lilac dusk and a red rug. I can imagine my backyard full of baklava trees. I can predict a gray night sky, light pollution pulling around the stadium, the moon out of frame. Last night, I saw the true moon suspended in my bedroom mirror, so I gasped and I asked, why am I getting so lucky? And I wished, stay with me through this jag or till I'm done watching. And I chanted, come up my porch steps, come up my porch steps, walk through my screen door. I can be withholding too. So, well, somebody's supposed to say, great reading, Kathleen.
Great reading, Kathleen.
Yeah,
Nice
that's
work.
usually, we do that for a minute so that everybody can still read and think. Listeners, if this is your first episode, sometimes we go dead silent immediately after a poem is read. And I can imagine people like checking their phones real fast. Is it play? What happened? What happened? But it's because we're thinking. So to cover the thinking, we usually try to say something.
There's
So
no
sorry about that.
there's
Sorry
no
about that.
space online to be awestruck.
Well,
We
you
gotta
know,
go on to the next thing.
Jad Abendrod came and spoke here, and you know, like everyone else in the world, I'm a fan of Radiolab, and I didn't know though that there's actually a phrase now called the Radiolab pause. It's like if you're in conversation and it goes silent for like just that uncomfortable, leaning into that uncomfortable moment, it's called a Radiolab pause because they do that dead air on their show purposefully. So that's what we did. Why did I just talk so much? That was on purpose. We let Lunacy just hang in the air. I'm going to fill time for another second as well and say listeners, you can read. Remember that you can look at these poems on our pbqmag.org pages. And if you ever want to read along or read afterwards or put it on pause and go read or whatever you want, it's there for you. Now, to the poem. Enough thinking. Start speaking.
Almost every stanza has an image that I find familiar and new at the same time, that's phrased in a way that I find really nice. Even the no, I'm online imagining hanging laundry. If there are any more online jokes, I'd be out. But I like this one placed. I like the light pollution pooling around the stadium. I like it being around a stadium. I love that image. Mm-hmm. And I live down the street from the sports complex here in Philadelphia, and I love to look at those big bowls of gray sky during games. But by the time I get to the end of the poem, which the whole thing I really enjoy, I just pray at some point that I don't like the title. I think the title for me is just too much of the whole lunar stuff. It's just, to me, it clashes. There's a clash between them because everything about the poem is so comfortable and new and fresh and lonely. And I think it just does get to like the weirdness of it with the I can be withholding too. Like I'm slapped in the face with a narrative that's happening in this person's life that I get complete control over.
And you get control because she hasn't explicated it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But she set enough up to that point where I got what I need to now make it mine.
I'm just gobsmacked. I mean, every single line, almost every single line has this amazing reversal in the next line. And like, it's so weird and disorienting. And I just feel like I'm being turned around and around and around. You know, it's like being like wound up for like pin the tail on the donkey or something.
That's a very interesting way of describing it.
That's the way I feel reading this one too. I really like this poet. Can I refer to the other poem just from a distance?
That's the thing that Tim and I yell about. No, you cannot.
Okay, I won't. Well,
Go for it.
He asked. If somebody asks my permission, I'd get to say no.
I'm not allowed to refer to the other poem,
make
but
positive comparisons about that.
Well, I mean, I guess you could say something really general. We haven't read it yet. Do you want to say?
I'll say I really like this poet.
Okay.
But I do agree with Tim that the title, and I'll say things that I like about it because I really do like it. But the title seemed like maybe a temptation that the poet couldn't resist because it had the double meaning of the lunar part. But then the lunacy part I don't love. I think because it's almost like a kind of lens for poetry that the poet is giving, like a kind of like the poetic mind is one that makes these wild associations and leaps and shifts, which I think is what the area that she's entering. You know, the pen marks across the sky. No, it's a laundry accident. No, online. You know, shift, which I love. But the lunacy kind of tells us slightly how to think of it in a way that. Well, let's just say the other poem is it's not as subtle, that aspect, as it could be, I would think.
Jason, you were going to say something. No?
Not really. I mean, actually, John kind of said what I was going to say.
Okay.
Which is a sort of wonderful disorientation. And I just feel like the guided experience, it's not exactly surrealism, right? I mean, it's not.
No.
I don't know. It's like this very, just sort of very well managed associational experience where I just keep being flipped and flipped and flipped. Mm-hmm. And I really liked it.
And you enjoyed the flipping.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm online imagining hanging laundry.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. No, it's fabulous. I love it. And I also love the backyard full of baklava trees.
Yeah.
Damn. Right. I love that she's inviting us in her mind. I'm just using the female pronoun, sorry. And is not being surreal about it, that she's saying, I can imagine, you know, this could be happening. And I asked, why am I getting so lucky? There's something so... I love this person when she says that. You know what I mean? I want to know her, if that makes any sense at all. The character, the persona that would have these thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just hitting the right word at particular moments, like that lucky and the jag.
Yeah.
Stay with me through this jag or till I'm done watching. And she's having a conversation with the moon, I think, right?
I think so.
And
yeah.
I feel like this last stanza bears repeating. I love the last stanza.
Do it.
And I chanted, come up my porch steps, walk through my screen door. I can be withholding too. This word withholding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it awesome?
It's awesome. Because as Tim said, I think that brings us out into the true narrative. But that can also be about the moon, right? The moon doesn't show you all of itself all of the time.
Yeah.
You know? I love it.
Layers.
Did you think of that?
I mean, the thing that's sticking with me the most is the jag or till I'm done watching. I really like that. It really stuck with me while I was reading. This poem has some great imagery throughout. The only thing that I don't like that you guys liked was the online imagining hanging laundry. Something about that just wasn't into it as much. But everything else is so good.
You know, I always end up owning the fact that I'm probably the most domestic of any of us, right? Like I did raise the kids and, you know, and all that traditional household stuff. You have no idea for a woman who is pressured in between worlds of like being this great mom and making all the food on Pinterest, right? And then having to live your real life too, how that kind of stuff does happen. Like, shouldn't I hang my laundry? Oh my God, I have never hung laundry. What is wrong with me? What kind of woman am I? What kind of, human being am I? Shouldn't I experience that? Like all of these, this is what I should be doing things came to mind for me with that. Like, I'm not ever really in my backyard hanging clothes on a line, but I can imagine what that would be like. You ever read things and think should I be doing that? Is that something I should be doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're reading this as a person who's busy and also like elsewhere.
Or also doesn't give a fuck about hanging laundry on the line, but every now and then thinks, should I do that?
Well, as the second most domestic person in the room, and it's a distant second, but
no, you take a lot of care of those kids.
But I do find, like, when the chores are piling up and you find yourself looking at something online, sometimes the trap of it is sometimes you still feel like you're accomplishing something, and then it's 2 hours later and you realize the week is ruined because you're too far behind with everything. And I like that, the lull of it.
I like that now. That sold me.
This last stanza though, come up my porch steps. It has the what drew me in was it's in this imperative voice. It's suddenly in this trochaic meter. It's an incantation, kind of like Macbeth, and it draws like the Weird Sisters of Macbeth. It draws us in. But she gives us another little tell. I chanted. And I feel like it's a tell, like lunacy as the title, and we don't need it. And I feel like in this one, ... Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like she's giving us little helps that to me are not lifelines that I need. They feel like I don't know.
I'm going to disagree with you lightly on lunacy. I get your points on the title, all of you who disagreed about the title, but it doesn't bug me. It wouldn't have irked me if you guys hadn't talked about it. But I disagree with you strongly about chanted. I need and want chanted, and I think it adds a power that would not be there if the line was just repeated. Just repeating "come up my porch steps" would not have been as powerful without chanting. Who of us chants? How frequently do we chant? When do you use the verb? Well, I chanted, right? Never. So it's, for me, it was really special, and it was a help, but in a way that worked for me. Gave it a power.
It was like a mantra.
Yeah.
But isn't it a mantra anyway without the word chanted?
Why, just because she says it twice?
Well, the whole form of the last part, even walk through my screen door, it's got the
directive. Yeah. That's what I said. It is, but I still think that word adds power. Mm-hmm. I still think maybe it's not needed, but I think it adds. It doesn't take away from me. It's not a detractor. Do you like the word?
I mean, I think it's necessary as well, just because of the format of the last two stanzas. And I wished, and I chanted. I feel like it'd be a bit awkward if "and I chanted" was removed.
Good point. Mm. And I gasped, and I asked. Right? We've got all those verbs going with the I. Yeah. Since we all have acknowledged that there's another poem coming from Sadie Shore Parks, do we want to vote on this one, or do we still have things to say? We're going to vote? Okay, we're voting to vote, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, vote. And it's unanimously in. Woo! Yay, Sadie Shore Parks, thank you so much for lunacy. And now we are moving on to the second poem by her called Good Sleep. And John Wall Barger is going to read that for us.
Good sleep. Tonight is wonderful, considering. Earth is never urged to be so indigo, so chilled. 2 crows settled in my tree, a boring mutt of oak and pine outside my kitchen window. I see their rainbow necks twisting while I eat breakfast. Naturally, my dreams are no longer good thinking grounds, swooping shadows on noon sky. Dead bird under the wire. Dead bird under the wire. My mouth opens and there is a beak inside. It begs the question, did I shoot too far? A prairie made of sidewalk blocks, shaved bark speckling all of it.
Thank you.
Great reading.
Thanks, Jason.
Really, though, John is a really good reader. You should hear him read his own work. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. My favorite part is naturally my dreams are no longer good thinking grounds. Because when, don't you hate it when you have to wake up and move right away? Like when the day interrupts your morning, like when the day interrupts your dreams.
Yeah,
and you don't get a chance to hang on for a second. What, Jason?
That repetition of dead bird under the wire.
Uh-huh.
Love that. That was really great.
Yeah, that's a great risk.
My mouth opens and there's a beak inside. Really amazing.
Yeah, that's weirdness. That's true weirdness.
Yeah,
that's true dreamy weirdness.
Any
right?
more dream weirdness, then it becomes dumb. It's like it's right up against it,
Yeah, it took me a little while to get in, but once I was in that spot, I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It begs the question: did I shoot too far? Talk about that for me, por favor.
Like overreaching, I'm thinking.
Overreaching for what? What, the dream itself? Mm-hmm. The beak inside the mouth?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really need it to make literal sense.
Sure. I was just wondering what you made of it. Yeah.
I'm with Jason because to me, the first 3 stanzas of the poem up to the first saying of dead bird under the wire, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but they're kind of like waking time. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm awake, maybe eating breakfast, and there's a window with an actual literal crow outside. And then to me, that's how I read it, the repetition of dead bird under the wire begins the dream, like a kind of reenactment of the dream.
She is still thinking about the dream.
Yeah, I guess she's thinking of it, but what we get is a reenactment of it, like a kind of like, here it is again, like David Lynch style. And that's why, like Jason says, I did take it, like Ali says, as did I shoot too far, as an overreach of some kind. But the end doesn't need to make literal sense, I don't think.
No.
But it should have its own logic, which I think it does.
Mm-hmm. And what about that first stanza? I mean, am I being too literal by saying, like, okay, so she goes to sleep. Earth is never urged to be so indigo, so chilled. And then the next stanza is waking up.
I could have started the poem at True Crows Settled in My Tree.
That's what I'm wondering about that first stanza, because we're in the night there.
Considering.
I love tonight is wonderful, considering. I love that. The comma, the line spacing, all of it.
Reversal again.
Yeah. But, and even Earth is never urged to be so indigo, so chilled. I love that stanza, but I am still asking, what you think about starting at night and then breakfast in stanza 2.
I do feel like you could almost cut this into 2 poems. I would like the Tonight is Wonderful Considering Earth is Never Urged to Be So Indigo, So Chilled. I like that as a poem. Mm-hmm. And I like the rest of it as a poem.
Well, they could both be called Good Sleep.
Yeah, exactly. It's a twofer. I would jump at that.
Good Sleep 1, Good Sleep 2.
Can we, I don't know if this is appropriate, can we vote on accepting 2 poems?
Well, no, but Sadie can listen to this and decide if she wants to play with it, I think.
And then we can re-vote.
Yeah, sure.
Excellent.
I'm so excited.
You should see how straight he's sitting up in his chair now. How about Dead Bird? I'm just going to be the question asker on this one. 4th stanza, Dead Bird with a capital B on the bird.
Oh, yeah.
Why'd that happen? What's that meaning?
Well, to me, that maybe is part of the indication that we've undergone some kind of shift here.
Bird is the bird's name.
The band.
In the dream, right? Bird could be bird.
That's a great mixing of the character and the bird too. I mean, if this dead bird under wire in the next line is that she has wings or something corny, I would be out so hard. But with a beak in the mouth, it's just gross enough to like suck you in, and you don't argue with it at all.
And be one of those dream images that fucking stays with you. Right?
Yeah, because you can feel it.
Yeah. All day you're like.
It begs the question. I don't know if you guys read it the same way. To me, that's the beak inside the mouth. Is it? My mouth opens and there's a beak inside. It begs the question, did I shoot too far?
Sure. Oh.
So, yeah.
Right. Go ahead.
To me, I'm taking this as an invitation to read it as we're in a deepening space here of some kind. So to me, that means the dream.
Like, did they allow themselves to get too wrapped up into the dream?
And that last image, too, as well, is in the dream, right? A prairie made of sidewalk blocks. I just see this vista, of sidewalk. Yeah? No?
I'm dying to know what you guys think of that last stanza. I love it.
I'm getting a description in the dream. I'm in the dream, and that's what I see is like a huge plaza, prairie, like whatever. You've seen that much cement, that much paved, right? But with shaved bark just sprinkled all about, right? Literally what she says, I'm seeing it as part of the dream.
I like Apocalypse Plaza.
Yeah.
She has such an ability to surprise.
Yeah.
Like over and over. And like Tim says, with the kind of restraint, like I think she's very talented.
And also, we keep thinking about this beak inside the mouth. I love that it's titled Good Sleep because it was a weird dream.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's the opposite of lunacy.
Yeah.
This title fits everything.
Yeah. Well, how about shaved bark speckling all of it? That kind of hit me the wrong way the first time I read it, but then...
What was wrong? What happened?
Well, I don't know what shaved bark is. I had the same moment. I was like, shaved bark?
Well, what did you come to, Jason?
Of
do you like it?
Bark that's furry and has been shaved? Like, I mean, it's sort of like...
Well, you can shave wood, and it doesn't have to be furry. Shaving, I imagine, chips of bark.
Yeah.
That's all, just wood shavings.
I'm a very literal reader. Very, very literal. And so, yeah, it just sort of like, I couldn't quite make out what shaved bark was. But I love speckling all of them.
Yeah. I never thought of a razor. I thought of wood chips.
Yeah.
Or like, so many trees do lose their bark, too. Like, they just, bark pieces peel off, right?
I came to the wood image, too, or like a clear cut. Mm-hmm. Because to me, it goes to this apocalyptic place. So the prairie made of sidewalk blocks is also kind of apocalyptic. But then shaved bark, speckling all of it, it doesn't quite match the sidewalk blocks. But I don't care. It feels like a deepening into something even weirder.
Mm-hmm.
And I ultimately like kind of came around to it. But it took me a while.
Does all the silence mean we're thinking or that we're ready to vote?
I think we're ready to vote.
I think you guys are ready to vote.
Okay. Shall we then? 1, 2, 3, vote. And Sadie Shore Parks has a twofer today. Woohoo! Another unanimous yes. Thank you so much, Sadie. Yeah, gosh, don't even know what to say other than that. Thank you so much. What a great episode. Really nice to have you join us, John. Jason, nice to hear your voice. We just spooned the other day. I think this might be the shortest we've ever gone of seeing each other and spooning and then meeting each other on the podcast. And that was an amazing meal, though, too, wasn't it?
Oh, my God. It was so good.
Yes. I highly recommend fish next time.
Branzino was your favorite fish, right? That was a branzino you had?
I had the branzino, yeah.
Oh,
and it was
so
pretty amazing. And those oysters were rocking. Everything was delicious.
I don't really like oysters, but I like those oysters.
Yeah. So we were in New York, and Jason and Michael Broder, who's been on this podcast as well, joined Marion Wrenn and I for dinner after the Pride Day. And the bowl of roasted vegetables they gave us was the color of the rainbow. We were and then of course we did go to the big gay ice cream shop, which might have been the highlight of my entire weekend.
Oh my God, was that not the best ice cream?
It was sick. And then we went home and spooned, and it was really, really fun. So we were discussing what we were reading over the summer when we began this episode. So readers, please tell us what you're reading this summer other than PBQ, because we know you're always dipping in and out of that. There's 47 years worth to read, 46, something like that. What are you reading, Ollie?
To put me on the spot.
Pressure. Right.
Mostly, my summer reading has been taking in MMA editorials, but that's the extent of it currently, unfortunately.
Can you explain what that even means?
So,
MMA editorials.
Yeah, like the latest news in the fighting universe. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Are you a fighter or just a fan?
Perhaps one day I might dabble a bit, but I don't want to say too many big words without results.
He has trained. He has participated.
Anybody thinks they can take Ollie, come to the studio. Come down here now. It'll be our next
Ollie.
Podcast is going to be a fight.
He has participated. Right now, he is working on his studies. And I think I'm going to just keep speaking for you. I think the fact that you do have this desk job and you read all freaking day, every day, is probably what is affecting your reading. Right?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but that means you should be fighting on your off hours.
That's right. That's right.
We could do it. We could do it this summer. We've lots of time this summer. John, what are you reading?
Like Tim, I've been kind of dipping into a classic, Gogol's Dead Souls, which I never read back when I was a young man.
Awesome. Oh, you're still a young man. You readers, listeners, you should see this man.
I'm 48. I don't know.
That's young. I think, aren't we young until we're 70, right? Like if you die before you're 70, people go, he was so young.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. I hope they don't say that anytime soon.
Joe, you're on the spot now. What are you reading? Joe's a reader. Our sound engineer.
At the moment, I am rereading 1970s National Geographics.
Wow.
I found a whole pile of them at my parents' house when they moved out, and the journalism and the writing is really good.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. That's really fascinating. Yeah. Jason, I don't think you chimed in on this. What are you doing?
I'm reading A History of the French Revolution.
Timely.
That's the only thing that didn't titillate me to join in the reading process. I would even read the MMA editorials, I think, before the French Revolution.
Because people always make reference to it, and I realize I don't really know what a Jacobin is, and I don't really know what the Third Estate was. So I've been reading that. I've also been reading Dictee, because classics I never read.
Yeah, that's a theme.
What?
That's a theme. Classics I never read.
Yeah, so I was getting to. I got to Dictee. It's very interesting. I've never read anything like that.
Jason, if you find schematics for guillotines, send it to me. I think we need to start making some.
Well, that's actually. That's the other piece. It's like finding historical eras where things were worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Surely it's been this bad or worse. Please let that be true.
Absolutely.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but we've just reached like these. Oh my God!
Yeah. Oh yeah. We better not go there.
Yeah,
we'll be another hour, and we're supposed to be like an upbeat place of respite for our listeners, right? Aren't we also trying to take you out of the world for a moment as you listen to this? I hope.
And then I was reading Nicole Seeley's Ordinary Beast.
Oh.
It was really wonderful. I'm really enjoying that. I was teaching her Clue sestina. Do you know that she has like a double sestina about Clue, which is then followed by an erasure poem of the double sestina?
Oh no, I did not know that.
Yeah, like it's really like you're like, wow, like that's you talk about like being pulled into something and then just being pulled further and further in.
Yeah,
like, okay.
That's cool. That's very neat.
It's like building the bridge as you walk across it.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, let's end with that. Building a bridge as you walk across it, because that just kind of blows my mind. That's something to ponder. And I'll dream of that probably tonight now. Wonder if I'll make it. So thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Karen Neuberg and Sadie Shore Parks, for allowing us to discuss your work. Listeners, tell us how we're doing. Follow us on all the platforms and keep reading. Woohoo!